Hi all, my name's Trish Roberts and you're listening to LiveVegan. This is podcast number 3. My first 2 podcasts were about why abolitionists critique regulationist orgs and some thoughts about attitudes. Today I'd like to share a couple of twitlongers on Twitter by Professor Gary L. Francione. You can find Professor Francione online at abolitionistapproach.com. The first was shared on Twitter on April 18th, 2010. It reads, "Some thoughts on the word usage. The only reason why we have the word vegan is because some people who eat animal products have insisted on calling themselves vegetarians. Donald Watson's reaction to this was to coin a different word. Although Watson did not wear animal skin, and he did things like avoid killing worms when he gardened, etc., he thought of veganism primarily as a matter of diet. That is, Watson did not coin, quote, vegan, end quote, because he wanted a term that would include rejecting wool or protecting worms while gardening. He wanted a term that would exclude eating milk, eggs, etc. When I use, quote, vegan, end quote, unless I'm referring to a vegan diet, I mean it to include the rejection of all animal use. So as I use the term, it excludes wearing or using animals in any way. But there is a sense in which I resent the fact that Watson had to come up with a different word to deal with the fact that people who ate animal foods co-opted, quote, vegetarian, end quote, in brackets, in the same way, by the way, that in the 1990s, new welfarists co-opted, quote, animal rights, end quote. I often find myself saying, when asked about my diet, that I am a vegetarian, quote, and that means that I do not eat anything but plant foods, end quote. When someone says something like, quote, you mean you're a vegan, end quote, I reply, quote, yes, I follow a vegan diet in addition to not wearing animal skin or using any animal products. But I've always been confused as to why anyone who claims to be vegetarian thinks it's okay to eat anything other than plant foods, end quote. We are now facing a situation in which new welfarists are trying not only to co-opt, quote, abolition, end quote, by maintaining that they're really abolitionists, but they think we can get to abolition through welfare reform, which is the definition of new welfarism, but also co-opting, quote, vegan, end quote, to mean, quote, mostly no animal foods, end quote. Consistent veganism is labeled as, quote, absolutism, end quote, or, quote, fundamentalism, end quote, by these people. There is a danger that, as a matter of usage, quote, vegan, end quote, will come to mean what Singer refers to as, quote, flexible vegan, end quote, which I do not regard as vegan. A, quote, flexible vegan, end quote, is just an omnivore who does not eat animal foods all the time. In that sense, everyone on the planet is a, quote, flexible vegan, end quote, because no one eats animal foods all the time. So I guess we either need to be thinking of another term or, in the alternative, we need to be promoting the idea in creative, non-violent ways that we cannot justify any animal use. Call it what you want, the moral reality remains. Frankly, I rather wish, quote, vegetarian, end quote, meant a diet completely devoid of animal products. Quote, vegan, end quote, could then be applied to those who maintained a vegetarian diet for moral reasons and who did not wear or otherwise use animal products. Here is a follow-up to that twitlonger the following day by Professor Francione. It reads, last evening I posted a tweet about the use of, quote, vegetarian, end quote, and, quote, vegan, end quote. Some further thoughts. It occurs to me that by co-opting, corrupting, quote, vegetarian, end quote, and applying it to people who eat various animal products, quote, vegetarian, end quote, has become a morally desirable term that applies to morally unjustifiable behavior. It has allowed the drawing of a completely artificial and morally incoherent line between flesh, in brackets, although some vegetarians eat sea animals, end brackets, and dairy, eggs, etc. It has allowed welfarists to promote vegetarianism as a, quote, gateway, end quote, to a vegan diet. When you think about it, that is like saying that non-vegetarianism is a, quote, gateway, end quote, to a vegetarian diet, in brackets, if, quote, vegetarian, end quote, is properly understood as being a diet of plant foods only, end brackets. When seen in this way, the absurdity is clear. But because the word, quote, vegetarian, end quote, has been co-opted, the, quote, gateway, end quote, argument appears as less absurd on its face than it is. In brackets, although I have in my previous writings, see example. And this is where Professor Francione cites a link to an article he wrote, which you can find on his blog called Vegetarian First, where he rejects gateway arguments. Let us be clear, a vegetarian who consumes animal products is not a vegetarian. She or he is an omnivore who does not eat all animal foods or does not eat animal foods all the time, but then everyone is a vegetarian. Part of the struggle to abolish animal use is attributable to all of the, quote, animal people, end quote, who are vegetarian, but who eat animal products. They claim to embrace, quote, animal rights, end quote, although in fact participate in animal exploitation, but mask it with a term that has a positive moral charge. We should stop giving a morally desirable label to morally unjustifiable action. If people eat animal products, we should call them what they are, omnivores. If they do not eat flesh, we call them, quote, non-flesh eaters, end quote, or something similar that actually describes them more accurately. We should reclaim, quote, vegetarian, end quote, so that it pertains to a diet of plant foods and nothing more. We should stop supporting the use of a word that has morally desirable connotations to mask or hide morally unjustifiable behavior. Thank you for listening. Come visit us on LiveVegan on Facebook for all things abolitionist vegan. I also wanted to take the opportunity to invite you to join Peo Aldana's YouTube site, youtube.com/POROLITA22. Peo also has a Spanish channel. I also want to bring your attention to Mylene Ule's blog, My Face is on Fire. That's my-face-is-on-fire.blogspot.com. And also Dan Kadehi's Unpopular Vegan Essays, and that's unpopularveganessays.blogspot.com. Also, I wanted to bring your attention to Joe Chalbois' blog, The Starting Point is Veganism. That's thestartingpointisveganism.blogspot.com. I hope to mention a few other excellent blogs and YouTube sites in the coming weeks. There will be a couple more podcasts uploaded today on YouTube. They're both short. The first one is How Vegan is Vegan, and the following will be Are we morally obligated as individuals to promote veganism beyond our being vegans ourselves? For more information on the abolitionist approach by Professor Gary L. Francione, go to abolitionistapproach.com. If you're not vegan, go vegan. It's easy, it's better for you, for the planet, and most importantly, it's the morally right thing to do. Till next time, bye for now.